Masterclasses won't help you master skills. On the last episode, we talked about the importance of learning and acquiring skills, emphasizing that the best investment is in yourself. As a sequel, I figured we also need to talk about another very important detail. Before we proceed, take a moment to think about something you are very good at. The first thing that comes to your mind is usually the correct one. For some people, you realize that nobody really taught you per se. You probably saw someone do it, and then you started to do it and became better along the way. For others, you just learned only a little and began to take on lots of challenges that helped you get better. Many of us fall into the masterclass trap. This is a term used to describe a class taught by someone with expert knowledge in the field. In many cases, you are given a crash course that compresses years of experience into a few hours or days, and you are bombarded with lots of information. While it is good to attend such trainings and courses where you learn from experts, it's also important to note that it's hardly possible for you to master any skill in such a short time. The hard truth is that you usually only get a head start at best. It's also important to note that for the most part, you only need to learn the basics to start. The rest is learned on the job. True mastery is attained not in the class of learning, but in the field of practice. The things you learn from masterclasses are not exactly the things you face in the real world. In the real world, you face real situations where you will learn to apply your learnings from those classes or trainings that you took. But you will also need to apply other skills and abilities that you may never find in books or trainings because each new challenge has its peculiarities. As you progress, you find out that you become better and better and gradually attain mastery. You attain mastery not because of the number of trainings you do or books you read, but because of the amount of challenges that you take on. Not because of the amount of time that you spend learning, but because of the amount of time that you spend practicing. Many years ago, a mentor told me something that changed my thinking. He explained to me that learning isn't necessarily incremental all the time. In the beginning, it is incremental because there is usually a minimum amount of knowledge you need in any field to thrive. But beyond the basics, it's more sporadic and random, and the gaps fill over time. Knowing this, you must remember not to get stuck in the learning phase. Sometimes we feel we do not know enough to apply, but in reality, you will never know enough until you apply. We learn to do by doing. And so to get better at any skill, you need to move from the learning phase to the application phase as soon as possible. The application phase is where true learning occurs. That's the point where you validate whether you truly understand the things that you think you learned. You only know as much as you have been able to apply. The rest of the things you think you know may not be of much value to you until you apply them. John Maxwell in his book Failing Forward said, "Fail early, fail often, and always fail forward." The idea is to seek out avenues to apply your knowledge early enough. Embrace challenges as they come. You may fail at a lot of things on first try, but if you fail early, you can attain mastery early too. The earlier you try and fail, the earlier you can identify your weak points and correct them, and the earlier you can attain mastery. Sometimes you may experience what is known as imposter syndrome, which by dictionary definition is self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high-achieving individuals. Emphasis on high-achieving individuals. Ironically, these are the people who experience this feeling of inadequacy the most. Meanwhile, people who aren't as skilled or talented are achieving much bigger feats by applying the little knowledge that they have. Imposter syndrome is only overcome when you embrace challenges head-on. So before you attend the next masterclass, find ways to apply the things you learned from the previous one. Before you read the next book, ensure that you have practiced what you learned from the last one. Before you take another training, ask yourself what you do with the knowledge from the previous one you took. Masterclasses can help you learn skills and give you a head start, but it is only with sufficient practice that you can attain true mastery of any skill, not necessarily sufficient knowledge. The person with an average knowledge base and lots of practice in many cases will do better than the person with lots of knowledge and little practice. So as you try to expand your knowledge and learn new skills, always keep in mind that we learn to do by doing. This is where we wrap up our notes for today, and I trust that you learned a thing or two. Till I come your way again, keep being amazing. My name is Murphy Nnamdi Chuba.